So the other thing about Chiron and Taurus is it has to do with wounding around my sense of self-worth and my sense of value. And ultimately when you dig down, I think it has to do it ultimately just comes to self-love. Um, and so there's some kind of wounding there, and this is for me this is where it gets really obscure. For some reason I can wrap my head around the the wounding around instability, trusting the universe. I know those feelings well. I can. It's like my analytical mind can sort of troubleshoot that. I have an idea of like what actionable steps I can take to to fix that wounding, to fix that deficit. Um, when it when it comes to self love, this is where it's like this is even a bigger like blind spot for me. Like I don't really even know how to approach this. And one of the things that I'm finding is that it's like when I started to find out about this stuff, about Chiron stuff, it's like the self love thing resonated in such a way that like I deep down I knew that this is like the core thing to face. This is like the primary thing to look at. And I've known this my whole life, and I've avoided it my whole life. This is the biggest thing that I've run away from this harder than anything else. And I think that's even an indication that that's even more of an indication that this is the thing to look at, and highlights the like this is why the Chiron astrology resonates so much for me, because um, I'm waking up to these realizations. And so the sense of self-worth, sense of self-love, self-value, it's like the way that I would describe it is my whole life I've always felt like I don't really matter, that nobody really cares if I'm around. I could disappear tomorrow and it wouldn't really make any difference. Um, that that I don't have an impact. Like when I talk to people, when I'm engaging with people, when I'm speaking with, when I'm doing anything, it's this feeling that it may be like a feeling that I'm not being seen, but it feels like I don't have an impact. I'm often surprised to find out when I do. Like I'll say something, and to me it's like it's not a big thing. It's just like it's not a big deal. But somebody else will maybe later come to me and tell me how much that meant or something, or like how that impacted them in a way that like always it's always really surprising, because the wounding is such that I feel like I'm kind of invisible in a sense. Um, so and then I've always been terrible at negotiations, like negotiating salaries and um, budgets and things. It's like I'm always kind of coming from this feeling that it's like that I don't have value, and so I always like I underbid myself. I accept lower rates than I should, lower salaries, um, and yeah, and so that it's like this is this is what it feels like. This is my experience. And again, I'm not saying that this is true. This isn't, objectively this isn't true at all. But this is how I experience this thing. Um, I've always done, one of the things like earlier in my life, I would do the Irish exit. I would go to parties, and I would be surrounded with people who love me and care about me, and want me to be there, are excited to see me. And I don't know, sometimes I get to this point at parties, at social things, where like I reach a point of not physical exhaustion, but I feel like the social energy has exhausted itself for me, and I'm just like I'm not really interested in like picking up new conversations and meeting new people. And it's like a quality, like I know like there's like it's very clear when I've hit this point, and it's just like, okay, it's time to go. And it can happen at any point. Like I it might not be, it might be early in the party. And so I would have this tendency to just be like, okay, it's time to go. I'm just not feeling it anymore. And it's not like the party, so like it could be a great party. I'm just like, okay, I'm ready to go. And I would do what they call an Irish exit, which is like, the Irish exit is like you leave out the back door without telling anybody. I think Irish exit also because it usually implies that you're drunk. Then like it's like you're so wasted that you just have to like disappear out the back door. Maybe, I'm not sure. In the past, like in my 20s, like that was the case. I used to drink a lot, and it would be you just get smashed and like incoherent, and just like have to go home and like leave out the back door without telling anybody. But later on, it's like I would leave without saying anything. I would leave without saying goodbye, and and I think that's related to this whole thing. It's like this feeling that like I can leave and nobody would even notice that I'm gone. That there's no value in saying goodbye because it's like it's not that people don't care about me. It's more like an indifference. It's like it just doesn't matter. And I think and then and sometimes that would be the case. Sometimes I think it didn't really matter. Other times I think that it kind of it was maybe a little hurtful, like it was a little uncomfortable, a little awkward that I just disappeared without saying goodbye, and people are like kind of looking for me and like wondering where I went. Which is like, again, for me, there's a blind spot here. It's like the idea that somebody would be looking for me, wondering where I went, is like, that's kind of like, that's kind of new. It's like, I'm always surprised when somebody's like, oh, where did you go? And it's like, oh, you're actually paying attention. So yeah, so this self-love thing, it's like, and I think it's a reflection of how I feel about myself. And this is where I don't really know how to approach this. This is what I've been avoiding. I'll see workshops and videos on YouTube or podcasts or something exploring these subjects, and I tend to avoid them. Sometimes I'll dabble with it, but I actually did do a self-love workshop. I was in a beta program where we were testing out somebody's workshop, which was kind of interesting. So it's not something that I've completely ignored, but there is this tendency, there's a resistance there. There's a discomfort. And I think a lot of it is just like it's this is kind of a mystery. It's very obscure. It's like moving through the fog. I don't really know what this is about. How do I like if somebody asks me if I love myself, it's like, yeah. I think so. I don't know. What does that even mean? Yes, I love myself, but what does that mean? How does one love themselves? How does that, what is love? Is it an action? Do I, is it is it an ongoing process of actionable steps that if I do these things and demonstrate, like these actions demonstrate that I love something? I don't know, that to me that seems kind of mechanical. It's like that almost seems like, just the actions themselves don't, I don't know. It's like maybe it does mean something, but it's almost like I kind of pictured like a sociopath doing that. It's like you can be removed from it. Like if it's not infused with the vibration of love, then the action doesn't really mean anything. The word, like you can say I love, when you say I love you to somebody, it's all about the way that you say it. It's all about the energy that is infused in the vibration of the words, not the words themselves. And you can feel that. People know when somebody says I love you and it's not, the energy isn't there behind that. It's like intuitively, subconsciously, you can sense that. And so while the actions and the demonstrations of love are definitely important and part of the equation, I don't think that's quite where it's at. I think there's something more to this. What, and so what is it? Is it it seems like it's more like a vibration, like a state of being. I don't know, like an openness, vulnerability. And so that's it, and it's like this ongoing. It's a state of being. It's a present moment. Like every moment is this beingness, this vibration, and then and so it's like a state, being in a state of love, and then loving myself is like, well, that seems like kind of a more like more of a surface level thing, because it's like, well, then I'm this state of beingness, the love beingness, is like an unconditional state of love, where it just is. It's like everything is love. And it's like, in a way, like I think maybe this is just everything. People say that like the universe is love or whatever, and I hate to use these sort of cliche things, but it's like maybe that kind of is what it's like. Everything is, it's like all there is this like love beingness. Call it what you want, but it just is. It's like a vibration. But then there's like, well, self-love or love for somebody else, and it's like, well, now you're kind of like you're sectoring these off, you're branching, you're taking the isness and branching it into these different branches of attention or something. And so then that love is you can have love for somebody else, or be love for somebody else. I'm not sure, but it's like the attention is then being directed to myself, and so I don't know that, it's like, then talking about unconditional love, it's like, well, it's just a state of acceptance, maybe, just that that whatever I am is perfect, is beautiful. Like there's nothing to change, but it's like that. I mean, I think this is where it's like, there's always, it's not to disregard growth and evolution and improvement. It's like there's always, it's like recognizing areas where I'm less than perfect, acknowledging that I want to grow and improve that more, but also at the same time, like before that, accepting that that this is who I am, and that it's great, that it's perfect, that there's nothing to, even if I don't do anything about it, it's okay. One of the things that happened last night, actually, was I was meditating, and I had this experience where it was like I was experiencing myself as this sort of separate dual. I don't know what, people talk about non-duality, which is like unified. This was more of like a duality, where there was my higher self, and then there was me in the 3D reality, the 3D world. I don't want to call that reality, because it's all reality. But I was experiencing myself almost. It was almost like somebody, the higher self is playing a video game, and then the 3D self is the avatar on screen that they're controlling. And I was sort of having this dual experience where I was both of these things simultaneously, and it was as if my my higher self was telling my avatar that it loved me unconditionally. It was like, I love you. I'll be there. I'll be with you until forever. Until your body dissolves into the earth. My higher self will be there. So it's like a friend. It's like a companion that will be with me inevitably until my avatar is destroyed, and possibly beyond that. I'm not sure, but it was like it was a friend, it was a companion, it was almost like, almost like a parent. It was kind of like that, like inner child parenting kind of dynamic where the the higher self was like, I'm here, it's okay, I'm with you, I love you. And the 3D avatar was also saying the same thing back. It was like, oh, I love you too. And but there is a quality of like the avatar, the ego is immersed in this story in the 3D, and it's limited in its understanding. It's by definition, it's like it's in the simulation, it's immersed in the story, and that's kind of the whole point. But it's like so it's consumed with a lot more constrictive. It's not as sort of elevated and expansive. So it's more in the story and more, and it suffers. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say, is like the avatar experiences suffering, and the suffering is really, like any suffering, is just a result of I don't know, it being immersed in the story. It's like the suffering is the ego is consumed, is identified with what's happening in the simulation, and so it suffers. There's attachments, there's fears, there's stress, there's worry, there's loss and grief, and it's like all of these things are it's because that's what the ego is here. That's what the avatar is here to experience and immerse itself in, and feel these things. And but it's like suffering isn't pleasant. We avoid it, and so it was like the higher self was like, I'm here, I'm with you, I love you, and I'm sorry that the sorry that you have to experience this suffering. But it's like a game. It's like but it's not. I mean, it's real. It's very real. But it's like but it's okay. It's like I'm still here with you while you are experiencing and going through these emotional experiences. And I don't know, something about that helped. Something about that was comforting, and it was I think what was helpful was the split in the perception. It was like, instead of feeling like I'm just this kind of completely immersed in this meat mech avatar, and like being lost in that story, being so identified with what's going on that I'm consumed by it, and affected by it. Really, it was like seeing it as these kind of two different personalities, these two different avatars, helped to I don't know, maybe it was just like to remove some of that attachment, to elevate a little bit, and then in the on the topic of this self-love thing, it's like it was helpful to do this exercise and go through this and see it from that perspective, because it's like self-love, like, well, what is self-love and who is doing the loving. and it's myself, but like, well, like, what is myself? It's like all these, like, deep, what philosophical questions start coming up, these paradoxes. And so, yeah, it's like, well, who is doing the loving? And it was helpful to create, to see it from this perspective that, well, it's my higher self is, is doing the loving. And then it's like, I guess, like, what is that? Like, the action is like, it's saying these things to me, like saying, I love you, I'm there with you, it's okay, I'll be with you, like, you're not alone, I'll be with you until the end of time. So that's the demonstration of the self love, which is basically like words of affirmation. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I think that that's about it for now. Not I'm kind of I feel like I feel like it's time to leave the party. It's time to go. I'm out of I've exhausted my social capital here. So I'll leave it at that.